I remember Ellen DeGeneres did a show one time and she was talking about a plant that was coming out of her head and they had to move it. Somebody from like Illinois contacted her and said, the plant's coming out of your head and it's distracting you. And I'm like, how do you guys feel about a cat coming out of my head? I don't know. Anyway, what?
I think it's great decoration.
Yeah, right. I know. I wish you could see her face. She's actually a really super cute kitty. But anyway, hi, everybody. Welcome tonight. So I'm super excited because I finally got one of the moderators to come on live with me from Saving Pets, which is the Facebook group that I'm one of the moderators for. And I'm here with Sean Zyer, who is also one of the moderators for Saving Pets. Hi, Sean.
Hello.
My first one, all of the moderators, really quick, let me back up here a little bit. So I run this through two things live. So it runs through the Spaw, which is my business. For those of you who don't know, I own a business with boarding and daycare and grooming, and we have a nutrition store. And then I also, it's called the Spaw. So a lot of times I reference stuff from the Spaw, but I'm very active in moderating a group called Saving Pets One Pet at a Time, which is where Sean is also a moderator. So we're going to kind of be going back and forth talking about that kind of stuff. So, but Sean, if you can believe this, we have 27 moderators. I know you know that, but I guess we're not going live on Saving Pets. I thought we were. Lori, for some reason, says we're not. So that's weird. Lori's behind the scenes. So is there some reason why it's not streaming there? Oh, she's checking.
We can always just share it, right?
Yeah, I guess we'll have to share it anyway. So anyway, you guys will understand what this is. But so that'll go on there. But really why Sean and I wanted to come on is we're both really passionate about supplements and on Saving Pets, which is such a bummer because that's where we get most of our we get a lot of questions from Saving Pets.
Right.
We're getting a lot of pictures. Have you noticed, Sean? Like a whole lot of like, is this supplement good? Is this supplement good? Is that supplement good? And it's so hard to answer those questions because for one, for me, it's a big problem is I don't even know why you want to take those supplements. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. They're hard to answer. Don't you think?
Yeah, so it's one of the driving factors. I wanted to kind of get on and talk with you about it. And I think, this is going to be contrary to anybody you ever talk to that owns a supplement company. I'm going to say some pretty surprising things, hopefully today that I can get out. I have some notes that I want to go over, but I am guilty of, for myself especially, trying everything under the sun in terms of supplements, trying stuff out. I always lean towards trying like a natural or holistic side of things first before I have to go to the extreme of, Western medicine and go to the doctor. So because of that, I've had quite a few supplement graveyards in my day. And this is no different with pets. Pets are even trickier because a lot of things, especially when it comes to holistic supplements and natural products, they're hard to see like a profound benefit sometimes unless you're using them consistently or it's a good product. There's so much that goes into that. Not to mention, sometimes they're on medications and we're throwing in supplements that are supposed to treat the same symptom, but you're now competing with a pharmaceutical drug that is pinpointed to treat that symptom. So you don't even know if it works. So we have a lot of challenge when we start looking at supplements. And I kind of have a theory and a philosophy behind Earth Buddy and the way we do things. But I hope that makes sense kind of as a top level point.
No, I think it totally does. And it's funny that you say supplement graveyard. So I just have to share this really quick because it'll give people a visual, especially if you're like me. I don't want to say necessarily women, but I've never been like a supplement type. Like I have some, but I've never been like, oh, I'm gonna try this supplement and that supplement. But what I am guilty of is face creams. Oh, this is going to be the end all, the everything, right? I'm going to be Julia Roberts after this one. And so one time I got together because I just opened up my drawer one day and I was like, I have a graveyard of supplements, face supplements. And I wanted to put together like a party where we could all get together and be like, hey, do you want to try this one? Or, like, just to kind of give them out. Wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that with our dogs, but I think we are all guilty of seeing this fabulous commercial or hearing somebody say something is great, and then we buy it hoping it's going to be the answer to all of our problems. But don't you think too, like I noticed some people, I have a text right now from one of my clients who totally coincidence, she wants to know what supplements to add to her dog's food.
Okay.
And right away I was like, well, first off, let's look at what your dog's eating. So, and her dog's eating BJ's raw, like she's eating a really good food. So I feel like people just feel like they have to add a supplement.
Yeah. So let's create a pathway for pet owners. I think this is something I've thought a lot about, especially as I became a moderator in that group. I saw a lot of the questions. I'm like exposed to them, and now they got my wheels turning. And as a owner of a company that makes supplements, I think about this every day, and it's just kind of second nature when we put a product together. So I kind of took a step back after seeing so many pet owners with so many questions about supplements, of what I should add and things like that. So I kind of wanted to take a path of like how I would look at it if I was going to do it for myself, because I've made all of the mistakes that that pet owners make when there's something wrong with their pet. And I want to be at least like a cautionary tale first, and then go, well, this is why we made these products with Earth Buddy. But the way I kind of look at it is we have to look at the entire system. That's the holistic idea behind things, looking at the full system. That's a holistic approach, and it's much better and healthier than treating symptoms. So sometimes we see symptoms of something and we want to find something that pinpoints that system, as opposed to looking at the whole picture of that animal. That includes lifestyle, environment, and of course diet. So I start there when I think about the pets I've had with the specific issues they've had. I mean, I've had 2 different seizure dogs with completely different seizures, and I'm treating my current dog right now. She's a special needs dog that's blind and deaf. She's at my feet right here. If you hear her sighing every couple of minutes, she's probably sick of me. But no, I think every pet is so different. We have to look at that individual pet. And I say this all the time with our products, but it goes for diet and everything. Pets are individualized. They are individuals just like you and I. And not everything is going to work the same for us. We have different chemistry. We have different genetics, and we have to take that into account first. I'm stealing a quote, and I stole the supplement graveyard from Dr. Katie Woodley. I want to give credit where credit is due. I stand on the shoulders of a lot of really smart people, including people that we work with at Earth Buddy. So I'll steal a lot of quotes, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But I also work with a diagnostic company called Innovative Pet Labs, and I'm sure you've heard of them. They do GI testing for gut issues with the pet, and they do a bunch of extensive testing, and they say, test, don't guess. So sometimes when there's an issue, we want to throw something at that symptom, whether it's pain or anxiety.
Real quick, what did you say? Test, not what?
Test, don't guess.
Oh, guess. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
So sometimes we see a symptom and we want to treat, pain or anxiety, and oftentimes we can tackle that really easily with our products. But sometimes there's probably something a little bit more deeper than that. Like a perfect example is like my dog got gas or diarrhea really bad one day, and I gave him pumpkin and it fixed it. That probably was a temporary solution, and it could be something bigger. It could not be, and it could never come back again, and the pumpkin did the trick. But if we're now having to scoop pumpkin in every meal, that could be another issue that we're creating, because now we're over fibering them, putting more fiber, and now we're moving things along too fast. So
is fibering a word?
Yeah, I just made it up. So okay. I think we're on
a good
roll.
Word. I might steal it from you next time. According to Sean Zyer, you're over fibering.
Yes, exactly. So what I say is like, okay, if you're changing a diet, let's say that like your customer said they're on raw, but I'll just give a hypothetical of, I want to do better for my pet. They've come to the group, or they're just going down this road of like, I want to be healthier for my pet, more natural nutrition, whole food nutrition. Um, I really encourage everybody, and I posted on the group on Saving Pets the other day about this, about don't overhaul the whole thing at once. You can start with diet, but use that diet for like 30 days at minimum and really observe your pet and how they're acclimating to that diet. It's going to take, especially if you're going from a dry diet to a wet or even raw or home cooked, it's going to take that pet, at least 30 days, if not longer, to really acclimate their physiology to that diet. To throw in a bunch of concentrated supplements, regardless of the quality or not, it's too much. And sometimes, it might work out for your pet. I have a garbage disposal sitting at my feet. She can eat anything. I can give her anything. She eats stuff that no dog is supposed to eat because she got into something, and she survives it. But other dogs are not that tough immune system wise,
Right.
and it could really jack them up, or it can also cause another symptom, and now you're just in a whirlwind, and you don't know if it's the diet or the supplements or things like that. So I always say, if you're switching diets, don't just throw a bunch of supplements into. It's like, we tend to do this as humans, where we want to get healthy and we exercise super hard that first week. We change all of our diet, we throw in supplements, and then we're like half dead by the third day because we're sore, we're hungry, we're cranky, and our belly feels weird because we've got all these pills and powders in our body. So I really encourage pet owners not to just overhaul the whole system. Now, if you are acclimated to the diet and they've been on that diet for years, if not a couple months, and they've been observing that pet and they're doing well, and they start to notice specific things, my first suggestion would be to look at a whole food source of what you're trying to address. So let's say, if there's a whole food source for, digestive issues, my go-to would be like, well, what's the most unrefined, pure thing that we can give to an animal that's good for the gut? My thought would be goat's milk, raw goat's milk. Tons of nutrients, tons of pre and probiotics, going to balance that microbiome out, and be a really simple and pretty cost-effective way, because you don't have to add a ton to start with that product, and it's completely unrefined and it's raw. So that's an example of a whole food source. Another one would be like for joint issues, not necessarily pain, but maybe just you want to keep the joints healthy. Start looking for like collagen, raw collagen and chews. And when I say raw, I would say like, there's like, I'm trying to think of some sources of collagen. Like there's like hooves and stuff that you can buy with like the fur on them still.
Yep.
I know Real Dog Box has like a ton
Real
of
Dog Box
stuff.
does. They have some good stuff. Yeah.
They have excellent whole food sources of supplements that you can just get in a really natural way. So here I am as a company owner that sells concentrated supplements, and I'm telling you, like, here's some other companies, here's some other sources that you can find the initial starting point. Now,
but that's one of the reasons why, like, it's funny because I have a grooming shop and I tell people all the time not to overbathe their animals, and people are like, well, aren't you going to lose money? I'm like, I didn't get in this to make money. And I feel the same way about Sean. Like, I mean, obviously we eventually get to a point where you have to make money, but that doesn't mean we sell out the animals to do it. So, when you say that, I'm a supplement company, and I'm telling you right now, there are whole food supplements you could do, but there's also I sell supplements at my work.
Yeah.
But I am not going to sit here. Today I told a guy, what you could do at home. You could use some honey for this on your own. And if it doesn't work, then come back to me and we'll see what we can do. But to your point about whole food supplements, I just want to add one in because it's one of my favorites. It's a digestive enzyme, and that's papaya. Like
Yes.
papaya has amazing digestive enzymes in it, and sometimes you don't have to go. But now, if your pet won't eat papaya or you can't get it, then we got to look towards the supplement.
Yeah, and all these whole food sources that we're talking about, they have the supplement that you would probably ultimately steer them to if they wouldn't eat a papaya or things like that.
Right.
So papaya has, I believe it has like digestive enzymes that
Yep.
are going to help break protein down a little bit
Yep.
better. Um, I got a funny story for that if you want to remind me at the end about papaya.
Oh,
But
I'll remind you. Do we have to
uh,
wait to the end?
yeah, it's about how we created a product a while back, and the product is still available, but it was an ingredient that we are going to use. But anyways, I think one of the other driving factors when I looked at this, and especially just from the group because they have such good questions, I see a lot of comments about, specifically in my kind of bread and butter of recommending CBD for almost everything, and it's like I agree. There's a lot of uses for it, but I think at this point, for the sake of the pet owner and the vets that have to deal with this, and pet nutritionists like yourself, and just like advocates for pet health, I think we've become kind of inundated with that as a option that it's kind of lost its luster in what it's originally good for. And I think that does it disservice because now it's like it's still good for things, but when you have companies constantly saying it's good for just about everything, I think there's a big challenge with that. And we've never, as Earth Buddies, claimed to say like, hey, it's a panacea, meaning it's good for what ails you. It's like
Right.
um, we really hated that, and that's one of the many driving factors of why Earth Buddy was created, because we were like, hey, we know through the scientific studies, and now that there are more studies coming out for cats and dogs, we know what it's really good at. And then we can kind of say, hey, it might be good for this or that, but we can't say for sure. And we definitely don't market it that way. Whereas I see a lot of companies, especially pet companies, just out there making wild claims. And we've talked about CBD at length, and we don't have to go down that road. But I just think that was like another driving factor of why I wanted to talk about this, because sometimes you hear about a single ingredient, a molecule that's concentrated in a powder, pill, or oil form, and you think it's going to fix all these different things, and it's like maybe. I don't know your pet. I don't know what their lifestyle is like. They might be locked in a cage all day. You might never walk them. You might not feed them the greatest food. And now you're asking this pill, powder, or oil to literally work magic. So um, it's one of those things that I think having a healthy expectation when you go to a supplement, and being open-minded and consistent with it, and starting with those whole food sources first. um, I think when we look at, our products as a whole, we just look at it as 5 pillars of wellness. And those are like the basic things. A lot of this stuff can be handled through diet and nutrition. But then if it still persists to be an issue, and especially as pets get old, which is where our sweet spot is and what drives our innovation of products, because old pets, they're already aging faster than us and going through everything we do, but at a rapid pace. So
Right.
that's kind of where we come in and kind of address those 5 pillars in a little bit more supplemental concentrated form way. That's when we think those pills, powders, oils, maybe even like a treat that intros that supplement into it, can be a better option. But for daily use, I really do think it's a healthy way to start with whole food options, um, very unprocessed, unrefined sources of it, and then maybe looking towards the concentrated forms in a supplement form.
No, I agree with you, and I love that's. I swear, Sean, it's why I met Sean years ago, and I was drawn to you not necessarily your company, but just as a whole, because people don't realize like one of the reasons Savings Pets even exists is because Duncan died from a vitamin D overdose. And that's the thing about supplements, is that people think they're perfectly safe and they can do no harm, but they can do harm. And the harm in saying that every, like CBD, for example, right? Like you're saying, you get these people who just think it's the end all answer to everything. Then they start cramming it down people's throat to use it for everything. And then it doesn't work because it's not using properly. Couldn't work. And then you get this whole bunch of people going, CBD's just because, right? It's losing its way because it's oversold as the answer to everything. And it simply is not. But it has been the answer for some people for a lot of great things. But I think you get people, I've already seen it in my store where people are like, oh no, I don't know, that whole CBD thing, right? And I'm like, no, hold on, let's talk about this, whether it's being used correctly and what it's being used for. So we're already getting people kind of feeling like the CBD craze is gone, but it's not a fad and it wasn't a craze. It actually does work. In certain cases, if it's used properly and it's used by a company that's creating it properly. But it's something, with the supplements, like we talk about Duncan a lot. Thanks, Lori, for putting that up there. Duncan died from a vitamin D overdose. And granted, it was put in there by a premix from a company that overdosed the dog. But why I worry about supplements is because Duncan wasn't able to say early on, like, I don't feel very good. They're not able to tell us like, oh, I feel a little bit off. And then every day we're feeding them these supplements without questioning. We're not getting their blood work, So you do have to be careful. And it's why I like whole food supplements, but I also do find some good in supplements. And I've taken Sean's supplements myself. Say that all the time.
It's funny. I mean, I take our stuff too, but it's one of the things, it's one of the reasons why we've expanded our product line, to things that people aren't even talking about in the pet space right now. We've introduced ingredients, people were using mushrooms in pet products prior to us doing it, but we were the first to combine the hemp extracts and the mushrooms together. And this was purely we didn't have like any, we had research in each of them, but we didn't have any research of them together. And it became one of our best selling products just because it's one of those products that kind of addresses a lot of things as opposed to focusing on this one thing is going to fix all the things. So we really believe in kind of this synergistic value of these natural ingredients. But I think one thing that you were kind of touching on was that a lot of these products are out in the market and there's not a lot of traceability and there's not a lot of knowledge about how they're processed or what actually makes them effective. They have the name on there. They have the, for instance, a great example is like we hear turkey tail mushroom is really good, but what form of turkey tail mushroom are we talking about? Is it a powder that was grown on grain that was then just spray dried as a powder? And there's nothing wrong with that. It has some benefits in it, but it's not going to be as potent for an animal that may have cancer. So it might be a great product to give to a pet with a little bit of digestive upset and maybe a little bit of allergy issues with environment. That's a great product. I have nothing against it. But if you're talking about a pet with cancer, to get them the kind of efficacious dose that they need, they would need to eat like a bowl of turkey tail powdered dried mushroom to really get the efficacious level that they would need. Whereas we can take that, make it a concentrated extract of the same product and actually have some potency levels that we can actually test for, which I'm actually really excited because we can do R&D testing on our mushrooms. So nobody, that I just kind of went off on a tangent, sorry, but as it stands with like mushrooms, for instance, since I'm on the topic, there's a lot of mushroom products out there and most of them don't have an actual potency. And what does potency even mean with a mushroom? So with like CBD, we call it hemp extract, and the potency of CBD in that hemp extract is 500 milligrams in the bottle, let's say. Where mushrooms they just take whatever the volume of the powder or the oil, and they just say that's the milligram amount because that's how much it weighed. But there's no actual, like, there's real compounds in mushrooms that we should be testing for. The reality is, though, the labs that are available that can test for these, they don't even know what to test for yet
I was
either.
just going to say, it's probably
So,
so new, science wouldn't even be caught up to that yet.
right. So, well, we're fortunate that we have an R&D testing lab that is actually building this out. And
Oh, look who just joined us. Here's
hey,
another
Brian.
another one of our moderators. Hi, Brian. Haven't gotten him on camera yet, but 25 of them. There's me and you, and then 25 of the most shy people that don't like to go on camera.
You'll start knocking them down, I'm sure. But
real quick, I wanted to go back to turkey tail. So it's interesting.
Yeah, so
I went hunting for turkey tail with my son, who knows a lot about mushrooms. And I was so excited because we found so many turkey tail, except that I kept finding false ones. And it made me think, I wonder how many supplements are out there that are false turkey tails that aren't even and they looked so much like the real ones. So I just wonder if people who would know? How would you know?
Yeah, there's we can go down a big wormhole with mushrooms, and I don't want to bore everybody with that too much, but the reality is mushrooms are similar to cannabis. There's different strains of cannabis, there's different strains of mushrooms. So we're going to be putting out some content about how our mushrooms are grown. It's fascinating how we do it. And
your farm, I just went on and saw the video of this farm. I can't believe you never showed that to me before. I want to come out. I do.
Yeah.
It was so pretty. I'm like, I just want to live there.
Well, the mushroom farm isn't as extravagant and pretty because it's in a HEPA controlled, air filtrated lab. Because
still super cool.
Yeah, because to your point, if you mix certain species, or if you have, like, for instance, I can't go in there with a bunch of dog hair on me because dog hairs carry spores from mushrooms, and they can inoculate a species in the mushroom facility and completely wipe out a whole crop of mushrooms.
Wow.
So mushrooms are very temperamental and have to be grown by species, and then each species has their own strains. Like, there could be a strain that produces other compounds. What they're grown on is another kind of ball of wax we can open up. But if they're grown on rice versus millet versus wood, and I can get into some of that. But the reality is knowing where they're from is a big part of it. Knowing how they're grown is a little bit tougher to kind of dig in because some companies keep that proprietary, or they say grown outdoors on wood, which scalability wise is a little bit hard and hard for me to
what's the benefit of keeping it proprietary? Why is it just I don't want you to know, or do you think it might be a little?
Yeah, I none of our stuff is proprietary, so I can't speak to it. I honestly don't know. I think proprietary has been an old school thing that companies have done forever, especially when it comes to supplements, because a lot of times it hides the fact that they're pixie dusting products. So they'll have it in a blend of something, but they'll add like a couple other supplements, and they'll say this is our proprietary blend that we've figured out, but they won't tell you levels of things. Because a lot of times some of that stuff is just pixie dusted. And when I say pixie dust, it's just not in there at a level that would actually make an impact. Now, to that point, kind of sticking up for them on the other end is like, sometimes you're speaking to the fact that it's a synergistic blend. So you're not saying it's at an efficacious level for each ingredient, but it's more of it's the blend and they work synergistically together. So like for our mushrooms, we use a 5 blend. And they're all an even amount in there, but there's certain parts of the mushroom that will increase or decrease depending on what levels of potency. The big ingredient that everybody looks for or wants in a mushroom from an immune response standpoint. So if we're talking about cancer, that's what everybody wants for cancer. Beta glucans, we are trying to shoot for a specific level because we are labeling a product with a level on there. And then we want to test for that and then share that with the consumer. I don't know of any companies doing that except for maybe one other, and actually sharing their lab tests that are third party. That's a whole different thing too, which kind of goes back to the hemp thing where testing is a little bit misunderstood and not really emphasized, because they're just like, oh, I heard turkey tail mushrooms good for cancer. I'll just go find a company that has it and buy it.
That's what my fear is that like we just have no, it's just like the pet food industry. I mean, we just have no idea what's going in it, whether it's going to work or not, how it's processed. What Lily wants to know, she says she heard that mushrooms like cold weather. Is that
So that's a fun question. So each mushroom prefers a specific type of climate. And when we're talking about in the wild, especially, mushrooms typically grow on dead things. So dead trees, fallen trees, um, you know, piles of leaves and stuff like that. But often trees. And, you know, in Colorado here, we have like a mushroom season. The problem is in Colorado right now, it's been like the Northwest here where it literally pours rain almost every afternoon. Yesterday we had 30 minutes of hail. It was crazy.
wow?
Side weather talk. But right around last month and going into this month is kind of like prime time. It is a little bit chillier, damper, and a lot of times after a big rain, you can go into certain parts of the foothills of the Rockies and find tons of morels, which are delicious to eat.
My son's been morel hunting. He just sent me some. They were so
Yeah,
good. They were
40
so
bucks a pound.
He said I got a whole bunch of them and then I grilled them up. I was so happy. I couldn't believe like he got a lot of them. He's been mushroom hunting for a while and finding so many. He's up in Oregon, so he's can find all sorts of morels and he's excited. So
It's a big part of the gourmet mushroom side is really becoming popular. And I've heard some people ask if they can, just buy whole mushrooms like lion's mane
yeah,
and make broths, soup broths and stuff like that for their pet. And I'm like, absolutely. I mean,
I have lion's mane in my fridge right now.
we talk about extracts for supplements and stuff, but when you like boil something and make it a broth, like let's say you're using like a homemade chicken broth that you boiled yourself and you throw some lion's mane and some other mushrooms in there, you're doing the extraction right there, and they can eat all of that. So yeah, we always want to make sure they're food safe and obviously pet safe. Some of these wild mushrooms can look like, what, to your point, fake turkey tail. Some of these mushrooms can look like a edible mushroom for us or our pets, but they're actually like a poisonous version. So there's some apps out there you can go on and take pictures of and make sure you're looking at the right mushroom. But I
I
would
couldn't
advocate
believe
eating in
how much
gourmet. Yeah.
they looked so my son was getting so frustrated with me. Mom, I showed you. I showed you. And they looked so real to me. I was so excited to find them. They look, unless you flip them over and really examine them, like he was showing me how to do, I couldn't believe how easily you could be fooled by that.
Yeah. Well, and I think, with mushrooms, and it's a common one suggested for like extreme cases of cancer. The studies show though that mushrooms work really good with traditional treatments. So specifically like turkey tail, just because we've been talking about it, has shown to be really profound benefits against certain types of cancers, in conjunction with certain chemotherapies. So chemotherapy is basically wrecking the immune system and killing the cancer, but you need something to kind of modulate your immune system because it's going like this with the chemotherapy and the cancer. And what they found is that a pretty hefty dose of turkey tail, there's a compound in turkey tail that helps keep the immune system and the gut microbiome strong.
Wow.
And those typical treatments are what can kill people just from a weakened immune system. They get pneumonia and things like that. And our pets are no different. So I always want to like preface that because we're talking about pets. But yeah, that's like worst case scenario. But when we think about just mushrooms in general, their immunomodulating effects are profound. And I can't stress enough, all ages of pets can take them and keep their gut health improved, help them tolerate allergies, seasonal, environmental allergies a little bit better. And the common phrase I hear a lot is like, oh, mushrooms boost the immune system. I hate the word boost because sometimes your immune system's overreacting to the environmental allergy or the seasonal allergy, and it needs to be downregulated. So I always say immunomodulating or immune system regulating is the
Yeah.
benefit of mushrooms.
Yeah, I think regulating is such a better word than boost because we have all sorts of autoimmune diseases. We have overreactive immune systems. The last thing we need to do is like boost the heck out of it. Here's one from Lily: do you think mushrooms grown outdoors is better than indoors? And how do we go about doing that? It's really hard. I know
So just I could speak to that because we have a mushroom farm partner right down the road from our facility, and and I tour it regularly, and we're going to be putting some videos out about that. When you're growing specific species, you want to control that. When they're outdoors and you have wind and spores can leach on, you can change the complexity of how the compounds you're trying to grow. Like, so for lion's mane, there's a specific compound that the strain of lion's mane that we grow produces more of, and that specific compound has shown to improve cognitive function. So if we have those complexities of that mushroom change from the outdoor elements, because spores are in the air everywhere. When we walk through a forest, we're spreading the spores of those mushrooms all over. They want us to walk down those trails so we can spread their spores and they can populate to other dead things. That is the mushroom's whole goal. They're really quite smart. So, in my opinion, your mushrooms should be grown in a USDA organic facility that is controlled and uses USDA organic practices and is certified. So I don't know if you can do that as an outdoor product. Maybe you can. I'm not aware of it that is grown in the States like that. I know there are some Chinese products that claim to do it that way, but I'm not 100%.
I'm not even familiar with this. Dr. Harvey has Solaris mushroom blend. Do you know what that
Okay.
is? Morning and evening?
No, I would have to. I mean, I'm sure it's just a multi blend, and I love blends. So I am a big fan of not focusing on one thing. That's how a lot of our products are formulated. So I like Dr. Harvey's products. I think you see products out there that have like one mushroom in them, and that's great, especially if it's like a concentrated extract. But I really think that if we're trying to address the whole system, especially with a mushroom product, often dealing with immune function, autoimmune issues, cancer, end of life stuff, I think having a blend, because each mushroom has different compounds and different things in it that are going to be beneficial. Cordyceps is another one, the one that grows on dead bugs.
I love that one.
Yeah, that
That's my
one's wild.
favorite mushroom.
That one's amazing because it has a specific compound called cordycepin. Our R&D lab can now test for it, so pretty soon in the near future, you'll see on our lab tests like how much cordycepin is in the product. It shows to improve cardiovascular function. So when you're dealing with allergies, that's a cardiovascular and respiratory issue. We want to address that and say, hey, this is going to have some value for this, and actually speak to it with a lab test.
That's awesome. Lily went to a local mushroom farm. They had a covering over the mushrooms. Is that like I don't know what that would be used for. Maybe just shade or.
Yeah, and they probably get kind of weird if they're out in the sun and, if there's any moisture and stuff like that. They're, until you freeze dry them, they're pretty, they can expire pretty easily.
Really?
And they're pretty subtle. So yeah, if you're getting gourmet mushrooms, go home and cook with them. Put some butter and garlic on them, and or make them into
Those
a broth.
morels my son gave me were amazing. I don't know what he did with them, but they were like dry, and then he told me to put them in water, and then I just fried them up. It was like better than any steak I've ever had. It was so good. So, so good. Yeah. I like it better than lion's mane.
Yeah.
The morels are better to me than lion's mane is. But Alzheimer's runs in my family, so I've been downing lion's mane, actually your supplements quite a bit.
Oh, cool. Well, we have the new concentrates coming out, and it's just mushrooms, so you'll have to check those out. They're in a liquid form too, so excited to get those out there. And yeah, my mom is definitely on them too because she's got some health issues. So yeah, everything we make is human grade. We don't differentiate it, just the idea is when we make it a pet product, we can't technically recommend it for people, but we
Right.
make it as we would make it for ourselves. We don't want to differentiate that. I think it's funny when we see like flavorings of stuff, and you see this in like treats and
Right.
different kinds of oils and stuff. A lot of times just natural flavoring is usually like highly processed, very low quality chicken fat. So
Yeah.
another thing to look out for, just as like a cautionary, anytime you see kind of natural or bacon flavor, those are animal fats that are highly processed and refined, and probably not the best way. You can find sneakier ways with healthy ingredients to sneak that into your animal's food.
That's one of the things lately, like on Saving Pets, I've been getting really upset about is, really diving into those inactive ingredients that people don't even look at in these supplements, is these inactive ingredients. A lot of times, like, I'll look it up, it will be something I never heard of. I'm like, what the heck is that? I know it can't be good because I can't even pronounce it, never heard of it. And then I'll Google it and I'll look it up, and it'll say like side effects. I just did one the other day, side effects, severe allergies. Severe, like children have been hospitalized for this stuff, and yet it's in dog supplements.
So my past life, and the only, I've been in the pet industry for almost over 15 years now, and it's always been for either pet foods, pet distributors. And so I've seen all these facilities that make these products. I've worked with a lot of these companies that make these products. And, when it comes to like inactive ingredients in a treat, um, it's either preservative or something to bind something
Right.
is often what I see.
Right.
In a lot of cases, I don't have a problem with natural preservatives. And sometimes those come off as words that look kind of scary. But ultimately, a lot of it is very low quality binders and really nasty preservatives a lot of times that are unnecessary. And here's my take on that is like, I don't have a problem with using a supplemental treat to kind of get the main ingredients in, as long as it's palatable and it has simple ingredients. So the problem I see with that is if I got to give my pet this little nugget of stuff and I look at the ingredient panel and it has 20 plus ingredients just to get the one thing that I'm looking for, like let's use CBD. To me, it's a lot of wasted money. I'm
Yeah.
paying a lot of money and a surplus just to get the medicine in. Whereas you and I know, and if they go shop at your store, there's plenty of stuff that we can sneak the concentrated form with just 2 ingredients or even one, some cases, to get it in their bodies. And I think that's a little bit of the challenge when you think about older pets is, especially when they're going through like
Getting it. Yeah.
end of life stuff. It's like they're not eating. I just want to give them something, but there's a lot of palatable things that we can give them to sneak that, natural supplement in, as opposed to going to a cheap, low quality, binded up supplement.
Sometimes, not necessarily supplements that we take, but like I've noticed there's so many things that say that, they have like probiotics in it. And yeah, that's great, except that all these inactive ingredients that are in there will kill the probiotics. So a lot of times what people don't realize is that when companies are putting stuff on supplements and like ear cleaners and all that kind of stuff, even dog food, we know that it's only before it gets cooked that they can put it in there. So if you put a probiotic in kibble, for example, you can put that the probiotic went in there, but as soon as it gets cooked, it's done. So it's not going to work. but they can still put it on the label. Same thing. I was just doing an ear cleaner for somebody. Somebody was talking about ear cleaners, I think on Saving Pets, or it might've been on, I also do a lot I go on Dogs Naturally a lot, but, and they were talking about an ear cleaner, and I looked at it and it was like this probiotic, and that was the thing they were talking about it. And then you look further down and it's got like alcohol in it. It's got like tons of stuff in it. And I thought, there's no bacteria still living in that plastic bottle. Like, I just doubt it. So you're kind of getting played that way a little bit. That's why supplements, you just got to be really careful.
Yeah, and it's always better to just keep it simple. And like I said, at the beginning, it's like we can go down this funnel of like, let's start with the diet. Let's
Sure.
go to a simple diet. Let's go to like really simple ingredients that we can understand. The vitamin mix thing, a lot of that is driven through what the regulatory bodies kind of require and what you're allowed to say on that. So I feel for some of these food companies, because I know they're trying to do right, some of them, and they don't want to add all that crap in there. So they try to do the bare minimum, but a lot of times they have to add some things in there to make the claim
Sure.
complete and balanced. I think what's happening that's really exciting, I think, in my opinion, is there's a lot of companies that are like, we don't want to make the claim, but we know that if you feed this and you add, another whole food supplement like greens or something in there, this is going to be a complete diet, and you can alternate proteins and get a different amino acids and get everything the pet needs. The bottom line is, I think the idea is that we don't have to feed our pets the same things constantly for the rest of their life. Not to go too much on the diet stuff, because it's really not my full expertise. But I have worked for enough pet food companies. It's like, we don't have to go down that road in that traditional way of thinking, and we can be a little bit more, we can introduce a little bit more variety, because we don't eat a perfect vitamin pack every day in our diets, and nor should our pets have to. And ultimately, I think that drives a lot of the issues that we end up having to address with our products on the back end.
Yeah, it's, I think that's probably one of the, I know we've got the expo coming up, which Sean's going to be there, so you guys can come and meet him, and Dr. Woodley's going to be there. And one of the things Dr. Woodley's going to talk a little bit about is, overfeeding. And like, I just feel like that's such a big part of what is happening with our animals. We're overfeeding and over supplementing. We're just so desperate, and we all feel it. We're so desperate. We want our animals to live forever. We want them to live as long as we can possibly have them live. And so, why not? For $12.99, if I give this to my dog, is he going to live forever? And I think that race has gotten even more so now that we're hearing dogs are living, we have the oldest living dog that's 31 years old. And so now people, at 31, that's really crazy. But it's almost like now we're like, oh, well, my pet's going to live to be 31. So what do I have to do? And what do I have to supplement him with, and feed him this and feed him that? But sometimes just less is more. Like,
yeah, that's the idea. And one thing that, before I forget, because we'll go off on another tangent, is one of the common things I hear a lot is to detox. And you hear this in humans a lot, where I need to detox. And I think doing that through diet is step number one. But one of the things that we really wanted to do is understand, like, what does detoxification mean? A lot of that process is done through the liver. And we see a lot of products that are promoting that detoxification, but a lot of them are even natural products can come with some side effects. Even milk thistle, I know, is a common one. It's a great product. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think there's forms of that you have to know the quality. Is it a concentrate? How is it being administered? What is the actual dosage of what you're trying to get from that? And so that was one of the things I wanted to bring up, is just, addressing the detoxification pathways, diet being number one. And then, my big thing right now, and has been for the better part of 2 years, is the glutathione pathway. So, with glutathione, we really feel that because glutathione is in every cell in the body, it interacts with every kind of cellular function in the body. It is such an important thing, because the majority of glutathione in our bodies and our pets is produced in the liver. So we created our product with that in mind, and addressing that glutathione pathway helps us fight off, viral sensitivity and these age-related things that we come into, whether it's the end of life stuff or just basic, like, my pet is feeling crummy. They're not breaking food down right now. I need something to kind of help with that overall process. And the antioxidant that we produce naturally in our body becomes very deficient when we're sick, when we're not feeling good, and when we're getting old and our immune system is breaking down. So I think when we think about detox, we have to address the liver and really focus on diet and something like a glutathione supplement, or maybe even a small amount of milk thistle, depending on where it's from, how it's processed, that kind of thing.
How do you make glutathione? This is one I'm really starting to learn. I want to learn more about, but how do you make that?
Yeah, it's from a yeast culture. Having PhD scientists that are biochemists. The really important part is, like, glutathione addresses the inflammatory process in the body. So if you're inflamed, and that can lead to your bad mood, your bad digestion,
Everything.
and so, not to mention, there's amino acids that we can take that are really simple amino acids, that are from proteins and things like that, that can encourage the natural production of your glutathione. So we also use that as well. But I think, again, I think when we think about detox, I think you start with diet and cleaning up the diet and making it very simple. And then if there's still, like, severe issues when you get, an older pet and you're really kind of spinning your wheels on what's going on, we can tackle that issue really well with something like that we make.
I and my pets both do detoxing, and I just use the Adored Beasts liver tonic, and then I'll go, not quite 24 hours without eating. Like, I'll eat breakfast and then I won't eat until the next. Well, I guess it is kind of 24 hours. Sometimes I'll have a little something at night, but I'll go a long time, and I'll try to do like a liquid fast kind of thing. I do that every once in a while. And I got to tell you, I feel so much better after. Like, so much better after I do that, even for one day. Like, I just got back from Chicago. My son graduated, and so we were out in Chicago. And Chicago, I'm sorry, it is not fair that Chicago has this kind of food. Like, they have the best food. I don't know how people in Chicago could ever, like, not overeat. It's a good thing they have to work everywhere. Huh?
That was my backyard growing up. I grew right.
Oh my God. Like, you can't, it's not fair to go to Chicago and think you're not going to eat like that. The food is just amazing. Chicago, so I ate my way to Chicago for 5 days, and now I came home, and I already told my husband, like, I need to back off a little bit, because I ate so much food in Chicago. And so I'm going to be taking Adored Beasts, some drops, and getting through it, because I just feel, you just feel it when you're eating like that, it.
I will challenge you. And it doesn't even have to be our product. There's some really good glutathione products out there for people.
I haven't done glutathione. I want to.
I mean, when I take, a different form of it, even if I take ours, over a couple days, I'll feel remarkably better and more energized, and kind of get that fog out when you've been eating bar food for 5 days. So, I want to answer this question because we're getting close to an hour. It's a really big question. It's not an easy answer. So, Lily asked, how do we get the inflammation out of our bodies? So, I work with a PhD chemist. He studied biochemistry, and the focus of what he studied was inflammation pathways. and why cancer develops because of inflammation. That is a huge question, and it's a very it's not something I'm going to be able to answer perfectly, but I can give kind of an idea of how we look at it. Inflammation is kind of the root of all disease. When you think about even just these regular issues that we've been talking about, whether it's stress, anxiety, pain, GI upset, those kind of things. Inflammation is the root of all that, and we have to kind of curb that. Some inflammation can be actually good, though. So when you're fasting, you're creating, inflammatory processes that could be actually be good and help you detox your body. When we go in the sauna, we're creating this response in our body where we're overheating stuff, and our body has this inflammatory response to heal things. So there's good inflammation, there's bad inflammation. We need to figure out how to have the right inflammation and kind of balance it. We can't just never be inflamed. That's impossible. Right. We're big bags of chemistry. So the way I look at it is, there's a bunch of parts to that, and the holistic approach would be, your lifestyle and your relationships. I think that's a really easy one that we can actively work on. So with our pets, if we're talking about pets, because I want to always relate it back to them, it's like, are they getting on a lot of walks? Are they going on a lot of safaris and getting that stimulation? Are they being loved? Are they being given attention? That kind of thing. You can also, so that's like emotional wellness too. So that can, that's been shown to reduce inflammation significantly just from a mental and mood standpoint. And then we get into, what is the diet like? So there's the thing is like, different foods are going to trigger different inflammatory processes. Some vegetables create an inflammatory response and make us actually, that hormetic response, it's called, actually is good for us, that our body's kind of like, hey, we got to address something because we ate this vegetable. That could be a good thing. But on the flip side, there's certain foods that some people just can't eat. Or in the case of pets, there's certain foods that are so highly processed and far from what they were naturally, like chicken or chicken meal, that it just becomes this really low quality product that their bodies just can't respond to. So the way I look at that is like with diet and inflammation is the body gets very confused by highly refined ingredients. The body has a very hard time if it's super broken down and processed. The body goes, what the hell is this? Especially if it's used to whole foods.
Right.
So sometimes if we're trying to, get on these veterinary diets and crap like that, the body doesn't even know what the hell to do and just goes like, this isn't helping either, because I've never had this, refined and confusing level of, nutrients that are coming into my body. So we don't want to overwhelm the system with a bunch of highly refined things, not to mention all the things that are used to refine those ingredients can cause some inflammation. The chemicals that are used to extract, the heavy metals that get concentrated when we're concentrating a protein or a vitamin or things like that. So that's the dietary portion of inflammation that we have to address. Real food is always going to be better. So I think, and then if we look at like, systemic inflammation, we can definitely look at targeting certain systems in the body that can reduce inflammation. One being, or the main one being the gut. And we can add something like a digestive supplement. In our case, we promote colostrum because it balances good and bad bacteria. But, there's really good products out there with those digestive enzymes that are in papaya that, can help them break the food down better and absorb nutrients better. So it's really individualized. When I go back to answering the inflammation question, I don't think it's a one size fits all for any pet or person. I think you have to find a good diet, make sure you're emotional and relationship wise, and this all applies to our pets too. If you're feeding the best diet ever, but you're full of stress all the time in front of your animal, they're going to absorb that. And so we have to do the same for them we have to do the same for ourselves as we would do for them.
Yeah, people don't even realize the amount of stress. Like Lily's saying she can't go out walking, there's fires, all of that stuff is that's why your eyes are probably going crazy, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't even think about the stress that we're putting on our pets when we're stressed, and
Oh yeah.
they feel it. They feel it. They feel it. They feel it. All that kind of stuff. So, but I'm so glad that we came on and talked about supplements because I mean, I know you're new to saving pets, but I have been, and I don't even know how long now. It's been quite a few years that I've been working with it. But lately, the supplement stuff is really coming out. I mean, I'm seeing a constant, what about this supplement? What about that supplement? What about this supplement? And I just keep, and all the rest of the admins, behind the scenes, we're talking and we're like, let's just get them back on diet. Like stop, settle down. Like you don't always have to do a supplement. But to your point, and to the point of mushrooms, I know that one of the mushroom documentaries I watched recently, he was talking about his mom having breast cancer and the amount of turkey tail mushrooms that he had to give her. You could not, your stomach couldn't handle eating that much in a day. It was impossible. So she had to take, it was like 12 capsules a day she was taking.
Yeah,
And
it was
then that,
8 grams. I know the study you're talking about.
yeah,
They
I mean, it was
they
just
did a study
crazy.
on it. Yeah.
Oh, they did. Yeah. It was
So,
crazy amount that, yeah. So that's why supplements are so on the good side of it, right? Sometimes the amount you need to eat in order to fight something like a cancer. So I certainly don't want people to walk away going, oh, Sean and Carrie said don't take supplements, because that's definitely not what we're saying. But from a boarding standpoint, some of my clients are going to be upset, but I get people who get on this, thank God they get on the health bandwagon and they want
yeah.
their pets to eat healthier. So they start feeding them healthier. And then they just keep thinking there's more healthy.
Yeah.
there's this unknown place called more healthy.
Yeah.
And there isn't more healthy. There's healthy and there's unhealthy. And that's it to me. Like you're either healthy or you're unhealthy. You can't be more healthy. So
Well, there's
more
there's a
supplement,
there's a
that's
there's
really
a
going to fix
level.
that.
Yeah, there's a level. I think you can always like optimize your health is the word I like to use when as you're aging, So your needs are going to change. So there's nothing wrong with like having small changes, but what I would say, just kind of leaving everybody with like a good plan to think about it, is if you're considering a supplement, maybe take a couple weeks and observe how your pet is actually digesting, feeding, acting on a daily basis, and maybe jot a few notes down if you really want to take the extra step, and then assess those notes and go, okay, where can I fit in a supplement? That might be a good, healthy way to do it. To be a little bit more topical, I think with fireworks and thunderstorm season coming up, a lot of people rush to the CBD section, and I don't really have a problem with that. We just know through 7 years of doing this that it's our biggest time of year because people want to chill them out. But what I would add to that, instead of just buying a product like ours and hoping for it to cure your pet's extreme anxiety with fireworks, um, is take the proper precautions this month and going into July, because they're going to be selling those fireworks all the way into July. Is start preparing, especially as the day goes on. Make sure they got a ton of exercise that day. Make sure you have a room that has darkness in it and maybe a TV or a stereo. You can play some soothing music. The windows are covered, and maybe the booms still go off and still scare them, but it's a lot more dulled, and you have a plan in place. So,
Jay.
hey Jay, but I think, yeah, even for kitties, speaking of cats, I think having a plan in place during these 2 months for anxiety is really important, in addition to maybe considering a product like ours, because I mean, we can tell you to take our product and give it to them and use a ton of it, but if you're using it as the booms start happening, whether it's thunderstorms or fireworks, and you're expecting it to just zonk them out, like a Prozac or a pharmaceutical, it's really not going to be the best plan. Whereas if you have like your chill room set up, You gave them a ton of exercise that day, got them, some Beethoven, some classical music.
Since we started talking, since we kind of detoured a little bit onto 4th of July, and it is a good time to talk about it way before, because we want to talk about supplements, but I will tell you this. For me, what has worked, and I own a boarding facility, so I can tell you what that's all about on 4th of July. I'm actually very fortunate. I used to own 2. One had a problem with fireworks. The other one, which is the one I have now, we can't hear the fireworks. But I have learned, so it actually, we get a lot of dogs because they can't hear it. But here's what I tell you, I will do. The CBD for me, I want people to start it 3 days before. Like, just start little 3 days before. And then what I do that works, or used to do, I don't need to do it where I am now, is we would find a recording of fireworks. Okay. So the same sound that your pet's going to hear at night, you play it in the morning of the day of fireworks, but low. And so they just slowly ease into that sound to the point where by 9 o'clock at night, they're like, whatever, I've heard that crap all day long. Like, they're over it. And it's not that giant boom that goes. That, to me, a little bit of CBD a few days before, every day leading up to it. Because people wait till 8 o'clock at night and they're like, okay, grab the CBD.
Carrie, you're pointing to stuff that, we have actual data on what you're talking about. And it's funny that you kind of learned that over the years because you've worked with so many pets. But we actually did a study during this time last year on 75 pets, and we found that 21 days of low to moderate use reduced anxiety by 30%. And we have the data to show that. Wow. Within the first week, we saw significant reduction, but 30% is huge number when you're talking about anxiety.
Yeah.
There's a stat that we posted. If Shania's on, I hope she can pull it really quick, but we posted a stat the other day about, I think it was like in a study in New Zealand or something, 75% of pets experience anxiety, and only 30% of that number of pet owners actually did anything about it. So a lot of times, and I have family, I have friends, I've been around people with their pets that they know their pet is freaking out and have them outside while those fireworks or those thunderstorms are going off. And they think it's kind of silly and they kind of laugh at it because not a lot of people take how serious that is for the pet. And, that makes me really sad looking back on it because I know the stats on runaways during this time.
I was going to say, they're going to regret that because back when I was a vet tech, we would get dogs that went through plate glass windows. I mean, we're talking serious, get hit by cars because they will do anything to get away from that sound.
Well, and imagine like the most scary thing and nerve-wracking thing in your life, and you're being not just exposed, but like forced into it against your will and not an expecting way. Like, they never know when they're coming, and we can't
know that it's 4th of July,
and they can't
June.
Yeah,
and it's coming. So, they're not like anticipating the day.
Yeah, and thank God, for myself, not to brag or anything, because it's not it's a weird thing to brag about. But I have a blind and deaf dog, so these things don't bother her. But I have had dogs that are kind of bummed about these loud booms, and one of my first dogs, he didn't really like show severe anxiety, but I could tell just by demeanor over the years that it did significantly affect him, and I started putting those precautions that I kind of went over in place. But yeah, I highly suggest, if you can use like a CBD leading up to it, but also having those parameters in place of like the quiet room and soothing music, or a TV even with like, something very simple on. I think those are good combinations, and leading up to it kind of building up that daily dose, as opposed to, again, like we started thinking it's going to be magic on the second you hear a loud boom.
Well, that's back to what we were talking about with supplements, is that people use it incorrectly and then say it doesn't work. So when someone tells me, oh, I tried CBD last 4th of July and it didn't work, I always ask, well, I gave it to him like around 7:00. Okay, that's not going to work. So, kind of
So
then think CBD doesn't work, but I've seen CBD work many times for dogs with anxiety. So, but it's in combination of things.
well,
So
it's so individual, Carrie, and you said it perfectly. They use it one time, or they dose their pet, not even talking about CBD, but just like with a supplement. We don't take a fish oil and right away think, oh, my brain's working better, my joints are healthier. We don't look at that. So what I really tried to stress when I posted in Saving Pets the other day is we need to stop taking this Western pharmaceutical drug approach to natural supplements and holistic
right.
approaches. So I think we're so programmed. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of need for Western medicine and the traditional approach for certain issues with pets. Sometimes you have to go to the vet and get an anti-inflammatory because there's not a lot of options left. But
you don't have time, which is something I always talk about is people, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but time is a variable that nobody seems to want to look at. There was a study a long time ago on metronidazole. And the study said that if you gave your dog metronidazole for diarrhea, the diarrhea would clear up in 3 days. But if you did nothing, the diarrhea would clear up in 3 days. And so the point is, like, we're always on that rush to make it, like you're saying, like the Western brain, like, take this pill and I feel better. But time is a variable you have to allow, both for something to work and for something to stop, like diarrhea. Sometimes you don't have to do anything. You don't want to keep shoving food down their throat, but sometimes you don't need to do anything. And sometimes you just got to give it some time, which is why we have so many people doing 12 million supplements because they did it for a week and it didn't work. So now they add this on top of that. Another week goes by. I would say a month. I mean,
sometimes just fasting a dog is
fast.
okay.
Well, that's always what I do. If an animal has diarrhea, I fast them for 24 hours with some bone broth and voila.
That's great. Yeah, I think to that point though is like, with that typical traditional way of looking at it, I think you have to look at natural supplements as a cumulative. So using them over time is always going to be the best. I don't think you have to do loading doses or anything like that. But just anecdotally from my use of certain supplements, I feel better over time. And, I pay attention to my body, and then same with my pets. Certain things I've noticed with pets that I give, especially with certain digestive supplements. I notice my dog doesn't eat grass as much. There's things like that, but it takes time to notice that, and it takes observation.
Yes.
I think observation and taking notes is a really good plan, and then figuring out where you can find the right supplement. And then above all, if you can test the gut, you cannot go wrong with that. Then you have a plan, and you can bring that to any holistic vet or pet nutritionist, and you actually have data to show them of like, this is what my pet's gut and poop look like. So
yeah.
I think those are kind of the overarching themes of what we talked about today. I hope that gives everybody a starting point.
I hope so. If you are, we're going to let you guys go, but I just want to put this out there. If you're asking us on Saving Pets about supplements, make sure that you give us the pictures and the reason why your pet is going to take it, because that's something that time-wise, I mean, there are 27 of us, but sometimes it's really hard. Like a lot of us, I know Sean works full-time job. I work full-time jobs. I think all of us are working full-time jobs. So what happens when people don't post that right away, all the information, is you're going to get the answers less. Like this morning, for example, I had about 15 minutes. And so I see a picture of something, but I need more information. So then I got to type in more information. And by the time that more information comes, I got to get to work. Which is why it's great that there's so many of us. But if you are on Saving Pets and you're writing questions about supplements or anything, that's why we brought Sean in, because We have such a diverse group. You have no idea the diversity of what we have, what Kelly has put together. Kelly's the founder of Saving Pets One Pet at a Time. We have veterinarians. We have Sean is our mushroom and CBD expert. We have people who
Shout
work
out
in
to Kelly.
what?
Shout out to Kelly. She's great.
She's great. She put together a really amazing group of homeopathic, holistic experts. We have Brian, who's on here with us right now. Brian works for a raw pet food company, so he's constantly giving us information on how they go about the grinds and what they do. So, I mean, the diversity of what we have is amazing. But to get the best results, you can't give us too much information. I guess that's the easier, just give us all the information because we're going to ask. I think we've all gotten to that point now where I don't answer anything till I have all the information I can get. Because I don't know why. Somebody just posted, this was on a different site, and it said, can feeding a dog raw diet make them vomit? And the answer from this group was amazing. That's an open-ended question. For a million reasons, she responded. Like, yes, if it's rancid. Yes, if it's this. Yes, if he's never had it before. Yes, it goes on and on. So we have to know all that information, and then we can give you guys a better response. So,
no, that's funny. That's such an open-ended question, and the answer is probably most likely gonna be like, yeah, sure, it depends. And I think that's always a good answer to look for when you're asking questions like that. And most times when people ask me about specific issues, I go, it probably can, but it depends. I think that's a healthy answer when it comes to addressing a symptom or a disease. It's like, depends, it depends on where they're at and what they're, there's so many factors that we kind of talked about today. So I think handling each pet one at a time, kind of like the group says. And I think, for cats, for instance, like you can give a cat something completely healthy for them that is going to really help them, and they hate it and they foam, and that could freak the pet owner out.
I know I shouldn't be laughing, but
it's okay if a cat foams, but sometimes the cat owner might be like, absolutely not. I can't give that to him ever again.
Yeah. I'm just laughing because there's so many cat videos, because everybody probably by now knows that my husband's a crazy cat lady. So I've seen every cat video there could possibly be. And I'm crazy about cats too, but he's insane. So he's an insane cat lady. But he has all these videos of cats that they people put food up to them. You have to watch these. They are funny. I love cats and dogs, and I'm sorry for dog people. You're going to hate me when I say this. The cat videos are funnier. I'm sorry. They are really funny. My husband and I get into it all the time. I'm like, look, this is a dog. And then he shows me a cat and I start cracking up. But where you give the cats something to feed and then they gag. Have you seen those?
Yes.
Okay. Those are so funny. So yeah, to your point, you can give them CBD and they're going to be like, they start doing the vomit thing.
Yeah. And there's always those weird cases where they'll just lick it right out of the dropper. So it's so varying and so individualized.
So individual.
I'm really pumped for your event this year. I know last year I was so busy that I could barely breathe. I pulled my head up for water, which is a really good thing. It was so fun. I literally got to talk to so many people individually about their pets and kind of finding them the product. That was so cool. So I'm excited for that this year, and hopefully I'll be able to bring some help if I'm lucky. But either way, I'll be there, and I'll be able to hopefully talk to a lot of people that we regularly interact with.
So my son is going to be down for that weekend. And I mean, I know he doesn't really know your product, but he does know enough. He's going to be doing some videoing for me because he does a lot of drone videos and puts together. He's doing some stuff for me for the spa. And then I want him to get us really cool drone picture of the event. Yeah. I know we're talking shop right now, but
that's all good.
He may be able to help you in the booth a little bit, at least give you a break for a few minutes or something. He'll be there. So
no, it was so fun. It was so fun. I just wanted to throw in a plug for you because I think I think
Or
those.
I really feel like it's our event. I really do. Like the people that supported it last year and that are coming back this year, I'm like, I feel like we have this thriving pet team, like this
Yeah.
team of people. We all have Jay's here. Brian was there last year. Jay and Adrian are coming this year. They are going to be doing some really cool stuff. But I just feel like we just have this really great team behind us this year, and not that we didn't last year. Where it's growing is what I'm saying,
Right.
and so it's just going to be really amazing. So I'm excited. I'm
A
excited.
selfish highlight of this event that I will just point out is that there's not a lot of events where you can go and meet the people behind a company and actually get to sit there and talk, in
Yeah.
depth about your specific pet. Rarely do you get to do that. And I think, from my perspective, I rarely have time to do that. So when I get to go out and do that, it's very exciting for me. So, just a selfish kind of plug for it is we're so detached from so many of our sources of food, and especially our pet products. It's a really cool opportunity to actually meet people behind a brand and learn more about that and be able to sit there and kind of ask them questions back and forth, as opposed to like emailing somebody and waiting 3 days for a response, and then you respond to that response. It takes a long
I hate
time.
email.
So
I hate email.
I know how hard that is for me when I reach
Yeah.
out to companies. So it's a really cool event in that regard, is that you get to actually meet the brands, and I even had fun kind of talking shop with some of the vendors there too. So
Yeah, the vendors. That's one of the things that is really, really great about the fact that the vendors that are coming are all either very, very, very like in depth in it, or they are actually the owners and founders of it, and so you really get to meet them, and it's going to be a great event. So you'll get to learn so much about supplements and just everything that we talk about. Just everything is going to be a great event. So I'm excited. Yeah. So
yes.
all right, guys. Well, we're on here for quite a while. So sorry we had a little bit of some computer problems in the beginning, so we couldn't get on Saving Pets. I don't even know if we ever ended up on Saving Pets or not. It doesn't look like it. Usually I can't read their names if they're coming from Saving Pets, but I apologize if that is still the case and you got on late. At least you got on. We'll play this recording through Saving Pets. So if you missed it or you just got the on, I don't know, because I don't know what ended up happening, because thank God Lori takes care of all of that. She's also the one putting together the Thriving Pet Expo, which is amazing. So and we'll see Sean. Sean is on Saving Pets doing lots of answering for you guys, those kind of things. So you'll be able to see all of us. Brian's been really great. So I guess we're going to let you guys go. Any last minute things?
No, thanks for having me. I'll just leave it with, if anybody ever has any questions about why we do what we do at Earth Buddy, why certain things are formulated this way or that way, I'm a pretty open book. I'm happy to answer those questions. Don't be shy. Reach out. I love questions about products and how to help pets. So that's why I love being in that group, because I can kind of answer things directly without a product kind of leaning focus. But I'm happy to answer anything about our stuff too anytime. So don't be a stranger. Don't be shy. Reach out. I'm happy to help whatever your pets got going on. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for being part of the group, and hopefully some people from the spa were listening. So, all right, guys, we will see you again next week. I don't know what the topic's going to be. We kind of wait for stuff to come up, and supplements has just been pushing to come up. So I usually know a day or two before we go on what we're going to be talking about. But of course, you can always talk about whatever you want. Like, I didn't know we were going to talk about 4th of July tonight, but I'm so glad we did, because June is the perfect time to talk about 4th of July. It's the perfect time. It actually made me think I need to start doing some stuff for people, getting them on the CBD before 9:00 at night on the 4th of July. So,
right.
All right, guys, it was good having you all here. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys either in text or in live next week. All right, everybody take care. Lori, thank you. Sean, thank you so much for being part of everything that we do. It's awesome.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Carrie.
All right.
Have a good one.
Take care.